So there's been a couple months in between the last episode and the writing of this episode. And I ran into a lot of roadblocks. Momentum once again dropped pretty heavily, but the thing that brought it back was very interesting. I was exchanging emails with a product hero of mine in the design sphere and told him about this silly little vlog that I was doing. And he responded very enthusiastically and said, "When does the first episode go up?" And I thought, well, at that point I couldn't say, I don't know, whenever I get around to it. Because this is my hero. Like, I need to look good in front of him. So I said, oh yeah, the first episode's definitely going up on Saturday. Definitely. Now, this was before I had actually started recording any of these. I had about 7 episodes written and nothing to show for it. Now, this proved to be exactly the kick in the butt that I needed. That very Saturday, I recorded the first episode and put it up, which is why it is such trash quality. Even still, these aren't that great, but especially that first episode was really bad. But it got me to get moving. Now, I've been thinking a lot about this idea of moving fast. This same product hero, as well as another product hero of mine, were on a podcast where they were talking with Jason Fried. And if you don't know about him, he runs a very small company that makes very big, successful products. And he's kind of a product mastermind. He said in this interview that moving fast, faster than you think you can, is probably one of the most important things you can do when you're building a product. Now, he doesn't mean stay up all night and just try and churn it out. He means work fast. Don't dwell too much on things that you don't necessarily have control over. Push through the hard stuff. And just get it on paper. Just build whatever it is you're building. He says that the longer that you take and the more people you involve, the more and more bland in general it's going to get. And I have a recent example of this from my workplace. We were making a flyer with some text on it saying, contact this email address for more information to join our customer reference program. Now, this is kind of a big step. Our industry doesn't really trust us. They don't want to talk to people. For them, time is money. And cutting into their day by trying to check if we are making the right kind of product for them hasn't traditionally flown. Especially since they have taken that risk in the past and it hasn't panned out with the company not really responding to their needs. This wasn't an attempt to show them that we were going to do it differently this time. That a new team was involved with this and that their feedback would be heard. This wasn't a simple newsletter sign up. This was a commitment. The more people we started involving in this brochure, our content team, our marketers, our product managers, other designers, the more and more quickly it lost that heartfelt meaning to very simple words. And eventually, when it was outside of my control, it turned into join our product reference program today with the email address. All of the care and heartfelt attention to words had completely disappeared in favor of a punchy message that will appeal to nobody. And I feel like that's what Jason Fried was talking about. You have to move quickly and not edit too much so that your heart and your soul can stay in it. Now, I'm going to be taking a lot of that same approach here in Project Prometheus. I'm going to be open sourcing it, not exactly open sourcing it, but I am going to be putting an suggestion-only version up on Reddit and making it publicly available for people to comment on and suggest changes. And I'm going to take those changes very seriously, even more so if they've actually tried playing it. A problem with this is that right now, it's really just a loose collection of ideas in a Google Doc. So I need to refine it into a bit of a structure, even if it's very simple, at least one page that someone can read and get something playable out of. So that's the first step. The next step is, working faster. I'm going to depend on the community to help that move faster with the open sourcing, but I'm going to really work hard to push myself to move faster than I think I can. And in that same spirit, I dropped the setting because I have enough. I have enough to communicate the basic idea of the world. I don't need a full history of everything right now. I just need enough. So the next step, I've been thinking about how to create a more directed play experience. And I've been thinking a lot about the vision statement. Now, I don't think I've ever actually mentioned this on the podcast, but my vision statement for making games, the reason that I do this, more than just, oh, well, I love games. No, it's not just that. There's a reason behind it. And the vision statement is, I believe that interpersonal connections are some of the most important things in this world, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Those connections matter. I believe that games can help us deepen, broaden, and strengthen those interpersonal connections in a way that almost no other medium can. The ability for games to portray consequences and extreme danger in very short time periods without actually suffering any real harm, those sorts of things draw people together. And if we can make games that strengthen the human condition, that make people a little bit kinder to each other and happier, well, isn't that one of the most beautiful things in the world? So I really want to make that vision statement a big part of the game, along with our goals of evoking feelings of exploration, education, and consequences. And the way we're going to be doing this, well, at least for right now, is basically giving up on the D&D fantasy. For a long time, I've been really focused on this idea of, just complete freedom. That's what RPGs are best at, is putting someone in a situation and then, they get to decide everything that happens of what their character does, and anything is a possibility. And while that may be interesting for me, there's a really, really big problem with it. It doesn't work for my target audience. My wife, she doesn't enjoy that. She has told me frequently that being set in situations like that are stifling for her because she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what levers to pull, which buttons to press that will progress the story forward. She has analysis paralysis. Hick's Law comes into full effect. And, well, it doesn't lead to very interesting stories that way. So I was thinking, how can we avoid that? How can we tailor to this desire that I have for role-playing games and their openness while still fit what my wife needs in order to have a good experience that actually carries across the goal of this product? And a bit of inspiration hit me while I was reading Blades in the Dark. Now, if you haven't read Blades in the Dark, I'm going to put a link to that down in the comments, just like I am with that interview with Jason Fried for you to listen to. But my heavens, if you haven't read Blades in the Dark, I highly recommend you doing it if you're at all interested in game design, which I imagine that's why you are here. Blades in the Dark is a steampunk type story of a world cast in darkness with ghosts perpetually haunting everything, and you are a group of scoundrels trying to eke out a meager living, hopefully not so meager, in a corrupt world that is essentially going down the toilet. It is a brilliant piece of focused, guided design, and it was exactly what I needed to unlock this last bit to make this more appealing to my wife. So in Blades in the Dark, you have 3 different phases. Well, 2, but one of them breaks down into 2 phases, so we'll just count it as 3 for now. First up, you're going to plan your next score. That is to say, what's the next illegal activity we're going to do that's going to elevate our status, bring in money, and make life easier for us? And then figure out how you're going to do it. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to actually go in and do it. You jump straight into the action based off of your plan, and you play it out until you reach a conclusion. You either succeed and bring home the glory and rewards, or you fail and you have to run home. The third phase is downtime. And that's where the characters can rest, rejuvenate, and build up for the next crime heist that they're going to be pulling. Now, Blades in the Dark has already pretty heavily influenced Project Prometheus, and with this, it's going to influence it even more. I realized that's exactly what we needed. We need phases. We need a clear direction of what you're doing and how to move to the next step. My wife isn't one for giant year-long campaigns with an ever-evolving story dictated by the players. This sort of an experience, far more tailored to what we need. So I started to think, what are the phases that I can use? What can I do that will help my wife know, number one, what she needs to do, and number two, what's the next step? And so I came up with the current phase system that we have, which I'll say right now, which is exploration, action, and fallout. Now, these are not final things by any means, but they are at least ideas that I can start to toy around with. In the exploration phase, you're going to be placed into 3 different encounters. Encounter 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 will be the lowest risk, lowest reward. It will be your introduction into this new area of the map that you're exploring. Depending on your success in this stage, you gain something called exploration tokens. Once again, not a final name. But these tokens you'll turn in during the action phase to increase your standing with that last action phase to make that easier and more successful for yourself. So let's say, for example, you made it to a royal court and you see a princess there and you need her help if you're going to bring something back of benefit to the guild, to the academy, and to the empire. Well, you can try and brawl your way through. You can try and impress her with feats of strength by beating down her guards and threatening her, but that probably wouldn't be very effective. Even if you rolled pretty incredibly, at most that would maybe give you 1 exploration token. That is not how you win friends and influence people. However, if you tried to sway her by saying she is the person that is needed at this moment, in this point of time in history, she individually is the person that can bring the most good to her people and to this world. If she can just help you, that's going to be a much higher chance of getting a better reward. So, on average, that first encounter maybe give you 2 exploration tokens, plus or minus 1, depending on how well you do. And then the success or failure you have in that first phase carries over to the second phase, where you then have another encounter, which is higher risk and higher reward. Once again, depending on how well you do there, that carries over to the third encounter with the highest risk, highest reward. You take all those exploration tokens that you received and move straight into the climax of the story. This is the thing that's actually going to determine if you bring back something of benefit or if you have to come home empty-handed. Regroup, and try again. This action phase will put you right in the middle of a situation. There is no time really to prepare, no time to stifle your thoughts and to confound yourself in a fog of confusion. But rather, immediately, you are where you need to be, and you know what you can do in order to bring back some things of benefit. Ideally, these exploration tokens are going to be things that you've learned about. Let's say you did end up bullying the princess, and then in her fit of fear, accidentally slips that maybe there's a back entrance into the mine. However, if you had swayed her with your kind words, maybe she would have told you that, as well as given you some resources, like some of her guards that can help escort people into the mine and get them away from the evil bad guy. Oh, and also there's giant snakes in that mine, so here's a special snake killing thing. Stuff like that. And then they use all of those things that they've learned over the course of this adventure to put themselves in a better situation when it comes time for the action phase. Using their character attributes, they play that out to conclusion, one way or the other. And then, at the very end, they decide what's the next area of the map they want to explore. Now, in the Fallout section, this is largely just for the DM. The DM is going to regroup, go back home, and go back to the drawing board on all of the factions and all of the relationships between them in this section of the world. That map that they drew up at first, that's going to dramatically shift now. What did the player's actions do that changed things? What has happened in normal time while the player was away? Has an overwhelming force finally taken over the cliff-side stronghold of one of their enemies? Have the trolls eaten an entire village? Maybe the princess that decided to help the kingdom? Maybe she's mustering an army now to go fight against the trolls. Who knows? But all of those relationships are going to shift. And then the DM in this Fallout stage is going to make the next set of starting 3 encounters for the exploration phase for the player to play in next time, based off of their selection at the end of the action phase. Now, as you can tell, there's a lot of wiggle room here. There's a lot of stuff I haven't necessarily thought out very deeply, but it's at least a start. And it's in that spirit of moving quickly that I'm just going to roll with it. And we can try and figure out the details as we go. I'm going to try and get a playtest going this next week. That's going to be really hard. We've had a very hard time scheduling playtests together. But I'm going to try and make it work. Commitment to YouTube. There we go. I'm going to try my best to get that in. And then we can talk about the results of it and how it's going to influence our design in the future. That's it. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll catch you next time.